This was when Valeda Mahobe was forcibly removed from her home in Sapphiretown. She was 22 at the time. At 88, she remembers what happened.
It reminds me of a very sad day, you know. As I say, we were just moved without having told where we are going to, and then we were dumped at this place.
In 1959, her family were taken against their will to Diepkloof, a township created specifically for black people by the whites-only racist apartheid government. 8 people forced from a spacious 5-room home into a 3-room house.
There was nothing, no shops, no schools, no churches, nothing.
Unfortunately, Mahobe's experience is not unique. Families were forcibly subjected to mass relocation under the Group Areas Acts from the 1950s to the 1980s. Before that, hundreds of thousands were impacted by the 1913 Natives Land Act that kept black land ownership between 7 and 13% across South Africa. The community of Sapphiretown is just one of hundreds that was uprooted by apartheid land policies. Black, brown and Asian people were forcefully removed. Their homes were demolished and a whites-only neighborhood was created here. The policies kept the races segregated, but they also ensured that black and brown people were kept poor by offering substandard education, by limiting the types of jobs that black and brown people could take, and by ensuring that they were unable to build wealth through property ownership. The effect of these policies is still evident today. Millions of people live in informal settlements, unable to afford decent homes. And land ownership is still skewed heavily in favor of the white minority, despite the democratic government promising reform. White South Africans only make up about 7.3% of the population, but own half of the cities and nearly 3/4 of all farmland. South Africa's government hopes a new law, the Expropriation Act, could offer solutions. The Act allows the government to identify private land that it could purchase for public projects like housing and schools. But the Act also allows for the government to seize land for nil compensation in limited instances and only if a court approves. This section of the law has drawn criticism from Afrikaner groups, the white descendants of Dutch and French settlers. The demographic is also largely conservative and Christian, mirroring Donald Trump's support in the US. They believe the law is a thinly disguised plan to steal white-owned farmland, and they're lobbying Washington to intervene on their behalf. US President Trump has already signed an executive order cutting aid to South Africa. He also offered Afrikaners refugee status in the US, despite saying the country would roll back other immigration and refugee programs. Although thousands of Afrikaners have made inquiries about the process, many are reluctant to leave South Africa.
They can't just en masse sell their farms and leave. They probably can't take much of their property with them. If you look at how refugee status worldwide works, it basically means you need to grab a backpack and leave everything else behind.
Meanwhile, land activist and lawyer Tembeka Ngcukaitobi says that even though the ANC government set up a land restitution process, it left thousands of people with unresolved claims. He says South Africa won't fully recover from apartheid until the land issue has been resolved.
Black people need land, but they cannot afford it. That is the true South African crisis. And most of them cannot prove that they were victims of forced removals because the process took place so long ago and the erasure has been so deep and so sustained that memories have faded, records have disappeared.
Valeda can remember what happened, but she too doesn't have the documents to prove that her family was dispossessed. While Mahobe knows she will never get her old home back, She's hopeful that the law will bring justice to other South Africans.